Michael Bay's own Drumdums has a new IP prequel that they're doing off of Rosemary's Baby. It's called Apartment 7A. I just watched it. We're going to review it. Let's go. Apartment 7A stars Julie Garner, Diane Wiest, Jim Sturgis, and is directed by Natalie Erica James. What's up, guys? Welcome to a brand new 2024 review for Apartment 7A. This is the Rosemary's Baby's prequel. I was highly curious about this for a couple of reasons. Rosemary's Baby is one of my all-time favorite horror films. It is so thought-provoking, and I think there's just so many layers to that movie, hidden layers. And every time you watch it, you can notice something different about it. It's a film that's studied still to this day, and I think it's still as popular almost 60 years later, which is insane. You know, you still see it on so many top 10, top 20 horror lists. But this is a horror movie, Rosemary's Baby, that it's just very subtle. You know, it's not in your face, and it's not like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or really even Friday the 13th or Halloween. No. There's just more subtext to this movie, and because of the evil nature of it, it really just creeps under your skin. And I think that's what's so effective about it, and you can't not mention Roman Polanski's amazing direction. So, Apartment 7A, if you remember in Rosemary's Baby, there was this character that Rosemary met in the laundry room. Her name was Terry Giannoffrio. And if you haven't watched Rosemary's Baby in a while, you might forget that, because literally she just has the one scene where she has that exchange with Rosemary, and they're saying, hey, let's make this like a laundry room date, and they're going to meet every week to do the laundry together. And then the very next scene, Rosemary and her husband are walking down the street, and boom, there she is laying on the sidewalk, and she's dead. And then you see the Cassavetes walking up on her, and we don't really know much about her in that movie. So Apartment 7A is her story, and she was pretty much in the same boat as Rosemary was. She was carrying the devil's baby. So really, in a sense, that is your plot synopsis. This is one of those prequels that takes one little scene of the iconic original and bases a whole movie around it, like say the Thing prequel did from 2011, which I like that movie quite a bit. I do like that movie quite a bit. I don't know why I think it. I do it. But it was plagued with problems behind the scenes because of not figuring out what they wanted to do with the effects. They actually did practical effects, but they decided to go CGI, and the CGI looks really laughable in the final act. So yeah, so this is sort of that movie, but I like the Thing prequel because it matches up with John Carpenter's original perfectly in tone, and I don't hate it. It doesn't. It pales in comparison, of course. When you're talking about movies like The Thing and Rosemary's Baby, these movies held up on high in horror circles. Nothing's going to compete with them. But it is always fun to try to make a prequel or even a sequel story out of them if you can get away with it. And I think Rosemary's Baby is a property that was begging for that treatment. And I know that there was a remake with Zoe Saldana, which I have not seen, and I really don't have a desire to see a remake of Rosemary's Baby, just because I think that movie's just perfect. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. If I should definitely check out that remake, then I'll do it. But I just have never had a desire to do it. I wanted to see this one because it was a different story. It was the story of this other character, Terry. And also, Julia Garner, not to take anything away from Zoe Saldana, if she would have been in this movie, I would have been happy to see it just because it's a prequel. But Julia Garner is really great in everything she does. Ozark, I think she steals the show. That's just a great show. She was also in a movie recently. I'll have a poster for it here because I can't remember the name of it. I think it's Hotel Something. It takes place in Australia. And I don't hear anybody talking about that movie, and it was fantastic, and it came out last year, so I'll put a poster for that. Definitely check it out. I've already given you a plot synopsis. Let me tell you what I really liked about this movie. I don't think it's perfect, and I think you can probably guess the reasons why it has problems. This is a beautiful, slick-looking movie, and I think we don't give enough credit to set designers, but the set design in this movie, it matches up with the original beautifully. Although I did recently watch the original, and I do love that 35 millimeter feel that it has. I believe it was shot in 35 millimeter. And correct me if I'm wrong, it might be, on film, but it definitely has a digital look to it, which that's not a bad thing. It still looks beautiful, but you're not going to see that grainy type look that you see on like the Criterion edition of Rosemary's Baby. But yeah, again, the set design I think is impeccable work, and you can just see like the attention to detail that was taken on just the molding on the walls and the 68 aesthetic that this movie has. Seeing when they're walking outside and the cars from that era, I appreciate that stuff, and it just brings you into that world. I think you have some fine acting in this movie. I didn't really tell you what, Terry, her profession is. The whole point of this movie is she is a dancer, and she has an accident at the beginning of the movie. The Cassavetes, they take her under their wing. They offer her this apartment, this beautiful apartment. And we're off and running with the story. They find a way to impregnate her so she can have the baby. So really the rest of the movie, it has the same type beats as the original movie. Her finding out things along the way that sometimes if a deal looks too good to be true, then maybe there is something off about it. There's a situation in the movie, how she got pregnant in the first place, because again, they're impregnating her with the devil's baby. But yeah, just another note on her acting. We often overlook, not just the vocal performance, but also the work that an actor has to do in a part, and she has to be a dancer. And I think she really sells it. I don't know if Julie Garner is a trained professional dancer, but boy, does she make you believe it. And there's a scene that ties in with the story that she has to do a dance scene that I thought was the best scene in the movie, to be honest. And that's all because of the work that she put into that scene. She's selling the point that she's trying to get across in the scene with her dance movements without saying a word. And I loved that. Now, of course, you have the Cassavetes in here, and you got the great Diane Wiest. Diane Wiest is a freaking legend. I remember being in the 80s and watching all these movies that came out, and she always popped up here and there. And she's just like the ultimate character actor. And she can fall into any role, and I think she does a really great job in this. I know actors don't like to use the word impersonate. They like to become the character, and I think she does a good job becoming that character that was played beautifully by the original actress in the original movie. But I look at this movie as kind of like a chessboard, and there's a lot of pieces in play to get Terry to where she needs to be for the Cassavetes, because we all know that there's this cult and they're wanting to birth the devil. There's an interesting moment in this movie too where one of the Cassavetes, he's talking to Terry, and he tells her, you're talking from your point of view, from your religion, but he mentions about his ancestors, and they happen to be on the other side, satanic. And I guess trying to offer up their point of view, where they're coming from. Obviously, they're doing horrible, horrible things in the movie, which isn't helping their case. But it was interesting that they put a scene like that in this. In a sense, I think oftentimes the bad guy thinks they're the good guy, right? I guess you can look at it that way. And I think it's interesting when movies offer up that type of scenario. But I guess lastly, as far as the good, the movie definitely kept my interest. But the problem you get with prequels is where it's going to land. And oftentimes you can't help but think about the original movie, and is there going to be a scene that kind of introduces characters from the original movie? And that can get in the way of being in the moment of a prequel. Even the Thing prequel had this problem. You're always thinking about, when are we going to see like a little Easter egg, I guess. That's what we're looking for, right? And you're going to be thinking about that, and I'm not going to tell you if you get that in this movie. But pretty much how it's going to end if you know the original story of Rosemary's Baby. Okay, that's not a spoiler. This is an over 60-year-old movie. We know what happens to Terry, right? So this is watching how that comes to be. So I think if you're a big, big fan of the original movie and you like the characters in that movie and the lore, then I think you're going to find some enjoyment because this is swift. It moves by pretty quick. It doesn't linger. And that's a complaint I have heard about Rosemary's Baby. It is a longer movie, and you do have to be patient to watch it. Whereas this one, I think it's a little bit more modern in its pacing, which is not like a ding or anything. So I guess jumping into the cons of the movie, I don't know if I'm going to feel the need to ever really watch this again. It's hard for me to even answer that for you. I think the performances are fine. I think the production looks amazing. But it doesn't have that edge to it like the original movie does. It doesn't have that that factor, that X factor about it that makes you want to kind of dig deeper into this particular movie. Yeah, you're going to want to dig deeper into Rosemary's Baby all day, but this particular movie, a lot of you, I think, might forget about it, and when you go into the future, you're probably still going to be watching the original. Unless you're just like a die-hard fan of this IP, and you know, you feel like you want to watch both movies, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't think this movie touches the original as far as how great that movie is. If this movie came out on its own by itself and the original didn't exist, I kind of have the same feeling. You know, when I'm comparing it to like everything that has come out this year, I just reviewed The Substance. Does this compare to that? No, I think it's just fine, right? It doesn't really push the envelope. It doesn't push any buttons. You're not going to be talking about how controversial this movie is, which the original is kind of controversial. Maybe that's part of its charm. So yeah, I guess overall, I'm going to give this a humdrum. And I'm not mad at that. That's kind of what I expected. I was really excited to see this when I saw the trailer for it, for sure. I do think this should have gotten maybe a theatrical release. It would have been kind of cool to see a movie like this on the big screen that's part of Rosemary's Baby. I think that is kind of the problem that we get with streaming these days. I think a lot of studios are knee-jerking to put a movie on streaming before they put them in theaters because they don't want to take that risk. Whereas before streaming, this movie probably would have come to theaters. It would have. So, yeah, that is the shame of it, you know? Makes me think back to Prey, how that movie should have been in theaters, but it wasn't because of the times that we live in, right? Movies are more disposable now. So, yeah. That's my thoughts on Apartment 7A, though. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this one. I'm sure a lot of you guys will find some enjoyment out of it. But I didn't even really mention about scares. There's nothing really shocking about it in terms of scares. So yeah, and I'm sure you're not surprised by that. You know, it's more just story driven, which is fine. But yeah, also be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day on Fridays, review for Fridays. Follow me at Drumdums on all my socials. Support me on Patreon, buy me a coffee. Become a channel member. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Drumdum out.